Probably to be a college student.
Right? I was gonna say that. That was the vibe I got. Okay. Happy Thursday, everybody. Forgot to say that. Okay, so digital media twos. You guys just got finished working with your cinematic shots. Okay, so we've been working with and practicing and identifying and researching different ways to move the camera, basically, or different ways to aim the camera, to put it very simplistically, in order to create different effects for the viewer. Okay, so for example, we talked about like if it's a low angle shot, the camera is down low compared to your subject, and it's going to make your subject appear what? Bigger, more powerful, maybe more dominant. Maybe they're going to feel like they're taking up more space, right? Similarly, some of you are looking at like those crane shots or drone shots where they were really up high, super high aerial shots where they're looking downward, right? What effect is that going to give for the subject? What's going to show in that scene then if you're really up high looking downward? You're going to see the landscape, right? Are you going to see any of the sky? Probably not, right? Because you're up high looking down. So the background in that particular shot is going to be the ground, right? And it's going to be more about the environment and less about maybe a person or a particular object. Does that make sense? Okay. We did that research in order to give you some tools to be able to use on some of these projects coming up now. Okay, so the next one is going to be something that was inspired by these 60-second documentaries. And I like the idea of this because it's like a really limited amount of time. Okay, we're squeezing kind of a lot of concepts and a lot of skill into something that's not going to like bog us down with a lot of repetition and a lot of time, because hopefully, I'm assuming that you've noticed, right, what's the main difference between stills and video as far as like the actual process of taking it? Time, right? You have to have time to record it, you have to have time to do the multiple takes, right? A photo takes an instant to press the button, but with video, you've got the actual time that you're actually recording, plus some lead time, plus some follow time, and then there's the time of editing it, and you can't just look at it once, you gotta look at it multiple times, and obviously that time is a bit of a difference, right? It's a pretty significant difference, in fact. So I looked at these, and I liked them because they use tools that you already know. You're gonna see some of those shots. Put it on my desk. You're gonna see some of those shots being used, okay? Not super high production value, okay? This is not like a major action film where you're gonna see like a big crane shot or something like that. But you are gonna see a variety of different types of shots. So we're gonna look at a few first, and then we're gonna kind of break down what techniques they used to do what they're doing.
If you can dream it, you can do it. Cap at a time. I'm Sammy, I'm 9 years old. I'm from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I recycle caps to make buddy benches. The benches are made by bringing bottle caps down. You melt the bottle caps into benches and then put them into schools. When somebody's lonely, they can sit on the buddy bench, and somebody else could come up to them. They can make new friends that way. Let's play? Yes. We collected 1,600 pounds of plastic caps. I got caps from all of the states, and Africa, Israel, Germany, and a lot more. Adults could use buddy benches because a lot of adults are lonely. They could use somebody to drink coffee with. Being included is so important. What is it on it?
Okay, general impression. What do you notice?
It's like short segments.
Short segments. What did that 60 seconds tell you?
Her story.
Her story. Okay. How did it tell you her story?
was like narrating it as like her video's going, like would go through about her.
Yeah, so your subject is going to be the narrator, okay, if it's about a person. Now notice I didn't say what our documentary was going to be about, and I'm going to leave that fairly open for this first one. But in this case, it was about her and the thing that she does, right, to put it very generally. Okay, what is the thing she does? She creates buddy benches, right? But she's narrating her own story. So how do you think the director here got her to narrate that story? Think like behind the scenes. If you were watching the filming of this, how do you think that occurred? She's just a little kid, right? She doesn't know anything about documentaries, I'm assuming.
Maybe asking what her favorite part is, or just asking her different questions and listen to what her response is.
Yes, there's a lot of asking questions, listening to the responses, okay? And then more than that, as a good director, okay, you'll set up the camera, you'll set up your subject, obviously you'll set up your lighting and whatever, and if you're a really good director, you'll set up your lighting and everything with a stand-in first before you sit your subject down, then you'll bring in your subject. Because what's gonna happen for your subject if you make them sit first and then you try to set up everything? They're gonna get nervous, they're gonna get bored, they're gonna get tired, it changes the whole experience for them, and you want them to be nice and fresh and ready so that their energy comes across. Because what would have happened in this documentary if she was really tired or crabby, or, you know what I mean, if her mood wasn't that like cheerful, cute little kid vibe, right? It would be a totally different story. You agree? Okay. So you sit them down once you have everything set up and you start asking questions. And it helps if you use a long zoom on your lens so that that camera does not have to be right up in their face. Okay? Because what's going to happen if you do a good job of asking questions when the camera's far away? After a while, they're going to get used to it, they're going to forget it's there. You're going to get a much more natural result than if you have the camera right in their face. And you guys have experienced this when you did portraits, right? What happens when you get close to somebody with a camera? Get nervous. It changes how they're putting forth energy. It changes how they're just occupying their space. Changes their whole kind of just overall appearance and mood. Okay? I have a keyboard up here.
My name is Shirley Curry. I'm 79 years old. I live here in Rocky Mount, Virginia. I've been playing video games since the mid-90s. That's when my son gave me my first computer and game. They keep my brain active. I'm not that good a player. I'm really derpy, actually, but I love it. I'm the grandma gamer. My very favorite game of all time is Skyrim. I love all the flowers that you can pick. I love the majestic mountains. I love the old dead trees, and it's an adventure, and I like to go on adventures. Where did he come from? There you go, the kill shot. Yes, glitch it. Oh my God, give me the kill shot. The kill shot. Yes. I got the dragon soul.
Similarities between this one and the first one, or differences? What do you notice?
Talking was in the background.
Talking was in the background. So you've got your interview, right? And we're going to call that your A-roll. That's like the most important content. That's the driving content that drives the rest of the documentary, right? So the A-roll is going to be your interview. That kind of goes, the soundtrack to that goes through the whole thing, right? And then over that, you may have some what we call B-roll, which are your other shots of other things. In this case, they had video game footage. They had footage of her playing, where she wasn't talking to the camera. She was just kind of doing her thing, and it was kind of like you were just filming from the background and observing. Does that make sense? Okay? So there's a difference between A-roll and B-roll, and you will have to film both. And that's where that storyboard comes in. Remember the storyboard that we did with the 5x5s, where you had to kind of have a little thumbnail for each shot, and a little plan, a little explanation for what that's going to be. Your storyboard is going to become a little more complex with this one, okay? The timeline, if you think about in WeVideo when you're editing, you guys know that along the bottom, the timeline, okay? Your timeline is going to now have multiple layers, whereas before it was a little bit simpler, where it was kind of cut and dry 5-second clips. Now you're going to have your interview clip on one layer, and you're going to have your B-roll clips on another layer kind of coming in and out over that soundtrack of your interview clip, okay? You may also have to edit your interview clip to shorten some things, right? It's a 60-second documentary, and I'm going to hold you to that. It's not going to be a 3-minute, 4-minute, 10-minute documentary. Even though you may film, I said might and might at the same time, even though you might film, 3 to 5 minutes of interview footage, you're going to pull out those key phrases, and you're going to edit that soundtrack down to fit the time that you need to fit. Does that make sense? Okay? Now the cool thing about this format, about having your A-roll and your B-roll kind of play interactively, is that you don't have to do a seamless job of editing the soundtrack. You can have like cuts in that clip, because your B-roll is going to be playing while that A-roll is cutting. Does that make sense? So we're going to watch another one, and I want you to watch for, specifically this time, how the cuts happen between clips.
I like to believe that dance is the soul speaking, without having to say a word. My name is Eric Kavanaugh. I am 24 years old, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I am a contemporary dancer. Dancing brings people more close to you because you're not telling them directly how you're feeling. You're welcoming them inside of your life. You don't have to express by words. You show them. You get to see who you truly are, what your heart really is feeling. Ballet is clean. It creates structure. It teaches you how to figure yourself out, how to get in and out of the movement without damaging yourself. It teaches you how to take care of yourself a little bit better. This is who I am. I like to take a classical ballet line and break it. It's a little bit unique to myself.
So what'd you notice about the cuts?
And he like took a breath and it's talking and changed.
Yep. So they're kind of like little phrases, right? I like that. I like this format a lot. I think it's really good for you guys because it's very workable, right? You can pick out the little things. He didn't say in there. He didn't say anything that was like rambling, okay? Because he probably may have in the original footage, but the director, and as the director you will do this, you get to cut out the important parts and just feature those and get rid of the rest. Does that make sense? That's like a thing that, like, don't we wish we could do that in real life? Just cut out all the rest of the fluff that I'm saying right now and just boil it down to like the really key parts. Throw some B-roll footage in the back of what you need to know. Succinct, to the point, entertaining, right? Is this starting to make sense? Okay. Do we get the difference between A-roll and B-roll? Okay, good. What type of content, meaning like, what does your documentary actually tell you? What does it show you? What type of content are we going to share with the documentary? Jordan.
A story about something.
Could be a story about something or someone. Is it a true story or a made-up story?
True.
It's a true story. Okay? So it's not going to be a work of fiction. It's not going to be a satire, right, where it's intentionally falsifying something. It could be funny, okay? There was one, that gamer one with the grandma was on the funnier side. There was one about, I don't remember if it was a 60-second talk, if it was something else that I saw, where it was about a guy that would like use humor. I think he was like a police officer or a security guard or something. And he would use humor in his patrol throughout the day. He would like mess with people, like balloon animals and stuff like that, just to like make their day and make them laugh. So I mean, it can be about something funny, and if it's about something funny, then for sure you're going to use this the style of that and the tone of that to come across in your documentary. So it doesn't have to be about something serious or heroic or anything real dramatic, okay? For you guys, when it comes to brainstorming content, like who could you make a documentary about or what could you make a documentary about? It doesn't have to be about a person, okay? If you wanted to make a documentary about a place, for example, like let's say if I wanted to make a documentary about Seymour High School art room, okay? I might have 2 or 3 people be A-roll interviews, okay, instead of just one. Is that making sense? So you can do it either way. If you have somebody that you know that would have an interest that would be worth sharing and that you could get good B-roll footage of, okay, then go ahead and use them. If you have an easier time thinking of a place or a concept, maybe it's about something like, you know, a particular game that people play, or maybe it's about, you know, I'm trying to think, like farming, right? You could have something about like dairy cows or something like that. There's a lot of options, and that's why I'm kind of leaving the topic really wide open for you guys at this point. Does that make sense? Okay. Would it be helpful for you guys to see how the interview happens? Okay. Can I put you on the spot?
Sure.
Could you, actually you can stay right there.
Alright.
I'm gonna ask you about your photography.
Alright.
Is that cool?
Yes. Sure.
Okay. So if I'm gonna interview Bailey, right, I'd set up the cameras, okay? And I'm putting you on the spot intentionally because I don't want you to think about it in advance. I want them to see the experience of like, what would happen if you had somebody. So this is how that works, okay? Tell me about your photography a little bit.
It started about 4 years ago. Took it up as a hobby. I started photographing mainly people, or when I went on trips, I photographed like the nature around me, culture.
Tell me about that again. This time start with the phrase, when I started photographing.
When I started photographing, I mainly focused on nature photography when I went traveling. I started focusing on a little bit of like capturing different personalities of people around me, portraits.
Did you hear the difference in her two statements? So I left it very open first. I let her just kind of free flow answer, and then I picked out something that I wanted. I told her how to start it, and then she went on. Did you hear even the second time her statement was much slower and more confident? Because she's repeating the same information that she's already said, okay? And she added a little bit, right? Because now she's getting more comfortable, okay? So you can direct your interviewees very specifically like that, okay? That's okay to do that. It makes them feel, did you feel more comfortable the second time?
Yeah.
It makes them feel more comfortable because they have a direction. They know they're doing something right. They know they're giving you kind of what you want, okay? When somebody sees your photos, what is their impression of your work?
Oh boy.
This is okay, by the way. They might take a couple seconds to think of your answer, okay? So don't be right over them, because that is nerve-wracking. Give them the time. The camera's just gonna roll, right? Tell them we can cut that out later. Take your time.
One impression I really notice is like if I get a really good shot when their face lights up and they see the picture and they get extremely happy, and even sometimes people are like, oh, that's the one right there, and then
Laughing like that is really good, because what does that show about your interviewee? Personality, shows enthusiasm, shows a genuine sense that they believe what they're saying, right? That's gonna carry across to the people that are seeing your documentary. Tell me about a particular photo shoot that sticks out to you. Maybe it's a favorite, maybe it's something that went really well.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is my wedding photo shoot, because I was really surprised in what I could capture the very first time I ever shot a wedding, and it went really well because the people, I was really comfortable with them and getting to know them, and they had very expressive personalities, which helped create some awesome photos.
tell me about how those clients appreciated, like what impact your photos made on them. How did they react to your photos? And start it with, when people see my photos.
When people see my photos, I think they're surprised in how their personalities really shine through, or even the kind of like the candids turn out to be some of their favorite pictures when they kind of caught in the moment, especially when people have more, like after they're done laughing, their smile in a picture is a lot more genuine than a posed smile. They have an appreciation for capturing all their personalities and the things they love.
Good. Did you hear how the last sentence that she did was like the best part? Okay, so she kind of used that first sentence to process through her answers. I honed in on the part that I wanted, I started it, and then it cleared it up. Okay, I didn't have to do a lot of directing, but just that kind of on the spot type of guidance, right? Now, if I was going to do this for a 60-second doc, I'd probably ask 3 or 4 more questions just to make sure that I could pick out the parts that I wanted. Okay, then let's say I did that. You did a wonderful job, by the way. Let's say I did that. I would go back through, I would review my footage, and I would take notes on my own footage. And based on that footage, I would storyboard. Okay? So I would start to pick out now, okay, we're going to talk about and we're going to focus on the impact of the clients. You talked a lot about genuine expression, which guess what? Is good footage for a video. Right? So that tells me I need to now go get B-roll of Bailey taking photographs. I need to get B-roll of people's expressions. So maybe I would have her do like a photo session, even just a mock photo session with people, and I would film different angles of that, okay? I would want some tight shots, meaning zoomed in, maybe on the client's faces, maybe on her showing the back of the camera to people, so that they get genuine reaction, right? I don't necessarily need to see what's on the back of the camera, okay, but I do need to see their expressions. I need to see her expression, how she interacts with people. I would get some mid shots of maybe waist up with her with the camera by her face, and then also maybe from behind her so that you see the client as well. And then I need some wide shots to show the whole environment, to show where she is taking pictures, to show that her and the client's moving around. Okay, so tight, middle, wide shots for your B-roll. Does that make sense? Okay. And then I would, did you hear the way that I described what I just said, like all those different shots? I would storyboard that. Okay. So I would start to piece together. I would literally write down like when she says this, or maybe, make little quotes. I don't remember the exact things that you said, but I would pick it out, right, and I'd write it down. What really works for this well is if you make like a table, and you can do this either on paper or in Google Docs. I'm going to have to move this camera, bear with me. Okay, so I would kind of make a table like that. See that on the camera? I think so. And then her quote would be here. So I'm making up your quote right now because I don't remember exactly what you said. My clients feel good when they see blah, 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 blah. Okay? And then here, I would have what shot I want. So it would be, here's Bailey with the camera. Here's the clients. Okay? And smiles, right? And that's a mid shot. Okay? Now I'm going to want a tighter shot of here's the camera and here's their faces behind it. It's a really odd shaped face. Where I can see the smiles. Tight shot. And this is going to kind of go over all of these. Okay? So then by then you'll know, okay, this sentence takes how long, right? 7 seconds, 12 seconds, whatever. So I need 3 or 4 shots that are 3 or 4 seconds each to fill that time. You don't have to storyboard in this exact format, but this works very effectively, okay? And that's why I like the idea of the 60-second doc, because it's a very manageable amount of time. You can storyboard out the whole thing, you can plan what you need, and then you can go and get it, and go and film it. What questions do you guys have? One last thing. What are the characteristics of a strong 60-second documentary? A good, strong, successful 60-second documentary has what or does what?
It's a lot of different backgrounds, so it's not kind of in the same setting throughout the whole thing.
Okay, so shows variety. Okay, and a lot of that is variety of the B-roll footage, right? Because your A-roll footage, your interview is going to be all kind of in one setting. Would you agree? Okay, you can do that if you want. You can do the interview in multiple places. Okay, but a lot of it, it's a shorter amount of time. It's kind of nice to have that be consistent. It adds some unity so that it pulls it all together. Okay, what else?
Different shot.
Uses different shot angles. So this is in locations. This is different shots, angles. Okay, tight, middle, wide. What else?
It tells the story very efficiently.
Tells the story. Okay, all this stuff is for this. The whole goal of this is to tell the story, right? So you got to figure out what story to tell, right? So uses an appealing story. Okay, a couple of you, actually I feel like quite a few of you, for your 5x5s, you used the idea of like a dull, boring day where something was really, really repetitive. And that totally worked. You nailed it on the 5x5s. For your 60-second doc, okay, you can't go and use the same kind of feeling. Okay, you're going to have to use something that's a little bit more engaging. You only have to hold their attention for 60 seconds, but that can be harder than you think. Okay, so you're going to have to kind of find that nugget of something in your life or something that you know of that you can come up with enough footage about. Does that make sense? What else does a strong documentary do? Or have, or look like?
I don't know how to like put this in words, but like the person has to be very comfortable and have like their voice has to be very confident. You know, you don't want to have some of the story have them be really quiet or sound like they're nervous.
Mm-hmm. Captures natural feelings. So we want to see confidence. We want to see and hear good voice. Okay? If I was going to do like Bailey's interview, okay, some of those I might have her say again a little bit more slowly. And I just keep that camera recording the whole time because when it comes down to it, we want to fit it in 60 seconds, right? So you might want to use something faster to fit more in, or you might want to use some slower paced speech to fill more time. And having those variety of options is always nice. Okay? But yes, captures natural feelings. You want to capture the genuine essence. You don't want it to feel forced. Okay? Some people, if they're very nervous, you might sit and chat with them for 15 minutes while the camera's rolling just to help open them up, let them forget about the camera. Then you'll get more genuine stuff. Okay? Don't be afraid to ask them a story again. Okay? If you're afraid that they're going to be like turned off by that, remember, hone in on a little part and then have them elaborate a little bit more. Did you feel like I was having you repeat yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like every time I said it, I got more confident with what I was saying.
Exactly.
So it works.
So it works. They feel like they get a do-over without you saying, no, that was bad, do it again. And it wasn't that it was bad, but they feel good having a take two, okay? Anything else that you guys feel?
I just have a question. So like,
Yeah.
let's say if I did like a cow, like as like somebody who's not like a person.
Yep.
Then how would you go about like doing a subject that doesn't? Like,
So
interact?
if your subject, okay, so your subject wouldn't necessarily be one cow
Right.
unless many people interact with that cow. Maybe you have one cow at your farm that like everybody acts with or works with. You would interview then all the different people that work with that cow.
Miguel Hernandez,
Okay.
Ben Southern,
So use
Rachel
that as your
Rapport,
voiceover.
Jessica Rorick, Samantha
Anybody
Seidel,
else questions?
Eric Anderson, Ely McLester,
Okay.
Jonathan Walters, Charlotte Roblewski, Allison Mady,